Hi. First of all, thank you for the invitation, Francis. I work for Intel Corporation. I just moved to Washington, D.C. about a year ago. I was in Arizona, and I work very closely with the schools in Arizona and try to get our education programs out there. This week, one of our big education programs is the Science Talent Search, which used to be the Westinghouse Science Competition. So I come at it a little bit of a different angle because I just saw 40 incredible students from all over the U.S. and the work that they can do. And I want to thank the teachers for sending us these students every year. It's either through our science fair or through the Science Talent Search. And it's an inspiring thing to watch what these students can do. And it's also very intimidating because they're very, very smart. So I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but it sounds really cool what you're working on. And so there's something there that we have in the question that lingers in my mind in terms of how do we get more reach? How do we get those 40 so that they're truly spread out through the U.S. because they're kind of concentrated in the big urban areas. We had a few rural students. And I keep thinking about how this country is very good with the athletic model. If you have a student that can throw a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, or an athlete that can throw a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, or can shoot a basketball, we find them. It doesn't matter where they are. They can be up in Alaska, they can be in the swamps, they can be anywhere. We find that student. The question that comes to my mind is, what is it that we need to do to be able to nurture the talent that we have in this country? We're not going to compete because of the numbers. We're going to compete because we can turn out the best and we can find the best talent in this country. And you guys are in the front lines. You're our scouts. You're our development coaches. You really are the ones that are pushing these kids forward as they walk through. And I'll just give you a couple of examples for those of you that haven't seen the work. And these are examples that I can understand. That some of the stuff that these kids work on. One of them I had at our science engineering fair last year. I had a sophomore student from Texas, from Austin, and she plays lacrosse. She went with her dad. She went into her garage and she did different experiments on different types of wood, different cuts to test out whether the flexibility and the strength of the lacrosse sticks. I don't play lacrosse. She was explaining all this to me. Apparently, if you're a forward, you want some flexibility because you're slinging the ball, so you want something that's very flexible. And if you're a defender, you need something that has strength in it. Well, she came up with a combination in terms of grain and type of wood, and she was selling these lacrosse sticks to a local sporting goods and making about $2,000 a month. And she thought it wasn't a big deal. It's like, yeah, this is a big deal. And so we seem to, and I do this every year, I find myself underestimating what our kids can do. And the science portion is really the best place for them to explore a lot of these talents. And it's really there where they can come up with solutions that can really solve some of the problems that I think we're going to see that are coming up.
Thank you. I think we probably have a little bit of time, so we'll try a question. And I'm only hesitating because when the governor arrives, he has a limited amount of time that he will share with us, and we just want to make sure we take advantage of that. But be thinking about questions, because really this forum is designed for you to ask questions. And there's a microphone here in the room, and there's also one there. But let me just maybe go to one panelist and just say or ask. If we think about some of the models that we're talking about, particularly what Carlos just mentioned related to the Intel competition, that those students are coming up with problems, working through them, experimenting, investigating. Is that what we need to do? And it's
I don't have a full answer to that, but I just wanted to comment on, yes, the Intel affair. I was there too earlier, and it is incredible when you see, and these were the 40 who have survived a great deal that has taken place before that. And there's several things that stand out about that activity. One of them has to do with the versatility of so many of the students. And that always brings us back, I think, to think about what education is supposed to be. There can be such an attempt to segregate the parts of the educational process that we might fail to recognize the different ways in which people learn, the fact that a number of these students are very strong in music, in athletics, in about a number of things. And I don't think we ever want to have an educational system that does not think about those kinds of activities, and that would indeed ask, how do we connect them better? One of the issues that has come up quite frequently in the science and technology worlds is that as we work to try to build the strengths in those regions, we forget the sorts of intersections that can prevail. And I just know from the experiences of teachers, there is often this idea of, can't we think of how we build much more effectively, thinking of ways in which experiences from outside of some of the arenas we're talking about, how those experiences can be enhanced, or how the experiences in science and engineering can be built through the added sorts of worlds that we know people inhabit. So it's not a direct response to that, but it is a part of what I think. I think that Dr. Eberle, when he used his opening comments, the way in which the rest of the world often looks at the U.S., it's because they see an underlying concern about developing in a much more holistic way what we have in mind. But my colleagues, I'm sure, have better comments to make.
Oh, you have a comment, or we can just take one from the floor? We'll see how we go. Why don't we start with one from the floor? Go ahead, from you.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Jean May Brett. I'm from Louisiana. One of the things, as we looked at the opening video, in Sputnik, Apollo time, certainly science was cool. There are many people in the room that don't go back to that time. I was a person in the school playground with a telescope watching. The nation put a real focus on science, put a tremendous focus on engineering. It was clear they were important, and they were cool. You know, when we look at Dean on the screen, I've just come from the state robotics competition, and it was cool. We've heard about the Intel, and it's cool. But how do we as a nation move science back to being a priority, as we heard Sally talk about again in the opening video? Thank you.
I have the microphone, I guess. I think part of it is engaging students where they're at and getting them to start to understand and love science from what they do, whether it's sports and building lacrosse sticks or whether it's music. The one book, the current book, The Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, talks about anyone who does anything good in life, that's a sports athlete or a musician, by the time they hit about the age of 18, they've had 10,000 hours of engagement in that topic. And I really think schools, we're not going to get 10,000 hours of science, but we need to start pushing towards that. It needs to be more than 30 minutes a week if it's scheduled last thing on a Friday afternoon. And it needs to be a priority. In Pennsylvania, as I'm sure in many states, I continually hear at the elementary level, science isn't being taught because of the requirements for math and language arts and reading testing. If we can actually make science the focus and teach other subjects through those areas, those tools, those skills, I think we'll better be able to put science as a priority, because students will see it is part of the relative world and it's not just that thing we do at the last part of the day.